have gained ground, but it's not over. Your enemy can't kill if they're dead. Double down. 3 opponents down.
Hand cannons, hand cannons, hand cannons. We've come a long way since Destiny 2 Year 1, where your competitive hand cannon options essentially came down to the Dire Promise, Midnight Coup, Better Devils, and the Old Fashioned. As we approach Year 3, we now have 8 exotic hand cannons, including the Ace of Spades, Malfeasance, The Last Word, Thorn, Lumina, as well as some oldies such as the Sunshot, Sturm, and the nearly forgotten Crimson. Along with these exotics, we now have some fantastic legendary options for PvP that can be absolute beasts with the right role. Some popular choices these days include Spare Rations, Austringer, Waking Vigil, Rose, Not Forgotten, Luna's Howl, Trust, Duke, and Crimil's Dagger, just to name a few. So with all these options, how do we go about choosing the best PvP hand cannon to use? This guide will break down some of the most popular options and attempt to rank them in terms of a tier list. So first of all, let's talk about what we're looking for in a hand cannon in order to make it an ideal choice. Hand cannons have 2 major advantages over other primary weapons in Destiny. Advantage number 1 is damage per shot. Hand cannons deal a huge amount of damage per bullet compared to something like an auto rifle, which deals less damage per shot and compensates by having a higher RPM. This means that you only need to be accurate for about 3 to 4 shots to get an optimal time to kill with a hand cannon. Many players find it a lot easier to flick from target to target just a few times instead of having to trace the target perfectly. Additionally, it's easier to win duels because you can incorporate some complex movement patterns such as strafing, crouching, and overall throwing off your opponent while you're not really messing up your own aim too badly. Advantage number 2 is that because of the huge burst damage nature of hand cannons, we can use cover to peak shot and deal most of our damage in short windows, then retreat back to cover to be safe in between our shots. Compare this to something like an auto rifle, where you need to expose yourself the entire time when you're fighting an enemy for long periods of time in order to achieve that optimal time to kill. So with that said, what stats do we care most about to benefit this style of play? By far, the most important stat on a hand cannon is range. That's why we'll be looking for this in our optimal roles. Having a high range stat allows us to achieve an optimal time to kill from further distance and also helps us land our shot easier at distance because of the way that the range stat interacts with aim assist and bullet magnetism in Destiny. We also want to choose a hand cannon that has a fast optimal time to kill. More on that in a little bit. So let's look at some of the top choices as far as range is concerned. A quick side note, all of the testing and numbers I'm about to share with you come from measuring the range set with Darcy in a private match. Due to the imprecise nature of this testing method, some numbers could be off by maybe a meter or two in either direction, but generally speaking, these should be pretty accurate if you were to test them yourself. First off is the Ace of Spades, which starts damage drop off at 34 meters. This is the best range of any exotic hand cannon in the game currently, except for Crimson, oddly, which with the catalyst starts damage drop off 1 meter further, but with that said, it's very inconsistent to land all 3 shots in a burst at that kind of range. Sturm, with its exotic catalyst, also starts damage drop off just 1 meter closer than Ace at 33 meters. Sunshot with the catalyst starts drop off at 31 meters. Thorn and Malfeasance both start drop off at 29 meters, and Lumina just behind at 28 meters. The lowest of the bunch for all exotic hand cannons is The Last Word at 22 meters. As far as legendaries, this is where things get interesting. My personal favorite legendary hand cannon, the Spare Rations, with a max range roll of full bore, ricochet rounds, rangefinder, and a range masterwork, doesn't start damage drop off until 36 meters, which is actually 2 meters further than Ace of Spades. It's the same story for a max range Austringer with full bore, accurized rounds, rangefinder, and a range masterwork. If you swap out opening shot for rangefinder on an Austringer, the damage drop off starts about the same at 37 meters for the first shot, but then falls to 32 meters when you don't have the opening shot perk active. Waking Vigil, with a max range god roll of sure shot, ricochet rounds, and a range masterwork, clocks in just barely behind these at 36 meters with opening shot active and 32 meters without. Rose, with its range masterwork, dropped off at 30 meters, just a little bit behind these. Not Forgotten is also in this ballpark, with damage drop off starting at 31 meters, and Luna's Howl just a little bit behind at 28 meters. The rangiest hand cannon that we tested was the Duke Mark 44, with a whopping 39 meters before damage drop off, with a roll of sure shot, ricochet rounds, range masterwork, and opening shot active. And that would fall down to 36 meters without the opening shot perk active. For comparison's sake, we also tested the Midnight Coup and Dire Promise, two of the most popular weapons from Season 3. Each of these also configured for a maximum range roll, and both clocked in about 28 meters before damage drop-off kicked in. Here's a quick breakdown chart showing the 20 different hand cannon combinations to see the range drop-off that we tested. So with this data on range, the next thing we need to take into account is the optimal time to kill and any perks that might improve the gun otherwise. Currently, 150 RPM hand cannons have the best time to kill in the game at 0.8 seconds, requiring just 3 headshots, followed by the 140 RPM hand cannons at 0.87 seconds, also requiring 3 headshots. 180 RPM hand cannons have a time to kill of 1.0 seconds, requiring 4 shots, 2 of which need to be a headshot. Lastly, we have the 110 RPM hand cannons being the slowest time to kill at 1.07 seconds, but only requiring 1 of the 3 shots to be a headshot in order to achieve that optimal time to kill. The major outlier here is the last word, which has the same damage model as a 150 RPM hand cannon, critting for 68 damage within its optimal range, but shooting at 225 RPM instead of 150. This means that it kills with 3 headshots at a blistering fast 0.53 seconds or 4 body shots at 0.8 seconds, which is the same time to kill as a 150 RPM hand cannon hitting all headshots. This puts the last word above the rest as the clear winner for the best hand cannon in the game at close to medium range. It's so strong in fact that it's currently banned in most tournaments in the Destiny 2 competitive scene. As far as the ranking system, this is clearly S tier. So what about the rest of the exotics? Ace of Spades with its combination of perks and incredible range is still a top hand cannon in any level of Destiny 2. I think it still belongs in the S tier and really only loses out to the last word and other excellent aimers with 150 RPM hand cannons who can consistently land those 3 headshots for a slightly faster time to kill. Thorn is a great weapon, and its damage over time effect keeps opponents from recovering their health while you're able to clean up the kill. It could actually become possibly the best hand cannon in the game if the rumors are true about a catalyst which increases its range and stability. For now, I'd put this in the A tier. Lumina is a very interesting weapon. Its base stats are not super impressive, but it is a 150 RPM hand cannon with a great time to kill, and its buff to teammates can make it a really cool pick in certain builds. However, individually I don't think that it's better than something like a Thorn. I'd put this in the B tier. Malfeasance has really good range, however being a 180 RPM hand cannon really holds it back with its slower 1.0 second time to kill. Its main useful perk comes into play most against roaming supers to shut them down, however it's not particularly great at killing these in time for its perk to proc. I'm placing this into the C tier. Sunshot has a really solid range and a fast time to kill with the catalyst, but its weird visual recoil and very small magazine hurt the gun overall. I'm going to rank this B tier until it gets a magazine size buff. Sturm is one of my favorite hand cannons for a very specific build, the one-shot deagle. You can actually check out my video guide for it here. However, for most normal use cases, it doesn't have much going for it outside of solid range with the catalyst. I'm putting this C tier unless you pair it with some sort of damage buff to allow it to 2-tap or 1-tap with a drain buff. Crimson oddly has the furthest range drop off of any exotic hand cannon in the game that I tested, but at that range it's incredibly hard to hit all 3 shots in a burst, especially not 3 headshots. It also struggles from its lack of ability to peek shot, since you have to expose yourself to danger while the full burst fires. It's basically a bad combination of a hand cannon and a pulse rifle currently. I would say this is D tier. Now we get to the tricky part, ranking the best legendary hand cannons. There's some excellent options here and a lot of it comes down to personal preference. Let's start off with the pinnacle crucible weapons, Not Forgotten and Luna's Howl. Since the nerfs happened a few months ago, these haven't been quite as popular and for good reason. The nerf to Magnificent Howl and the change to the rate of fire really hurt both of these. However, Not Forgotten still has really good range, falling off at 31 meters. I'm going to rank this A tier, and Luna's Howl just a little bit behind is going to be B tier due to its worst range. Midnight Coup and Dire Promise, favorites of Season 3 and earlier, are still quite usable, but they just don't have the range to compete with some of the top hand cannons you see these days. I'm going to put them both C tier. The Duke has massive range, and it can be really fun when damage perks like Rampage increase the damage output, allowing for 2 taps. However, it does struggle with time to kill otherwise since it's a 110 RPM hand cannon. I'm going to put this B tier just due to its potential to slay out in something like quick play. Trust is probably a much better gun on controller than mouse and keyboard due to being 180 RPM with less bloom and recoil. However, for PC mouse and keyboard users, I'm going to put this D tier. The last few hand cannons I chose to rank were pretty tough to draw a line between. All 4 of these are top choices and very prevalent in the high-end Destiny 2 competitive scene. Starting off with Rose with the range masterwork, I'm putting this A tier. It's a fantastic gun and it really only loses out to other top 150s at slightly further ranges when those have god rolls. It's especially good since it's a static roll that anyone can acquire without needing to have lucky RNG on your side to get a good gun. Austringer has excellent range and perk options. This would be an easy S tier pick if it was 150 RPM, but since it's 140 RPM with a slightly slower time to kill, I'm going to drop it down to A tier. It's still one of the absolute best hand cannons in the game, but the slower time to kill hurts it just a little bit in duels against excellent aimers. The upside though is that it's very easy to farm since it comes from the menagerie, so you can get a great roll without a whole lot of effort. Waking Vigil has huge range potential, it's 150 RPM and has a great perk pool to choose from. It's a fantastic hand cannon, and the only thing really holding it back is that it can't quite keep up with max range Spare Rations at the absolute furthest ranges. I'm going to put this into the A tier, but really I could see this going S tier as well. It's a very hard one to choose between. Finally, my current favorite legendary hand cannon in the game is Spare Rations, and to me this one's an easy S tier. There's a reason nearly every top PC player is farming for a god roll right now. It has incredible range potential, a great set of perk options, and since it's kinetic, it can pair with arguably the best shotgun in the game, the Mindbender's Ambition. The only thing really holding it back is that it can be an absolute pain to farm. Hopefully the changes coming soon will make that not the case for very long. I have one special bonus ranking for you, what I believe to be the absolute worst hand cannon in the game currently. That is the Warden's Law. This hand cannon shoots 2 bullets at the same time and basically follows the 110 RPM archetype. However, at mid to long range, it can be incredibly easy for one of the 2 bullets, even aimed perfectly, to miss its target, causing the time to kill to become just terrible. In my testing around mid-range, this happened frequently, even with almost perfect aim. In my opinion, this is the worst hand cannon in the game, and it's definitely going into the F tier. So I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown video. If you found it useful, I would love a thumbs up rating just to let me know. Also, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications just so that you don't miss any future breakdown videos. If you have any video ideas you'd like to see me create, please let me know in the comments. I really enjoy making these videos, but sometimes it's easy to run out of ideas, and I just want to make sure that each one is helpful for you. If you're interested in chatting about hand cannons or any other type of weapon in Destiny 2, my community Discord is very welcoming to new members, and we'd be happy to have you join us. There's a link in the description to check it out. These guys helped me do all the testing you saw in this video, so a big shout out to them for giving me a hand. I also stream most nights of the week on Twitch. You can catch me over at twitch.tv/pattycakespc. I'd love to see you in chat and say hi. That's all for now. Catch you next time.